Hello, fabulous friends and fans. I am your host, Nadiya Shah, and welcome to Synchronicity. And this is your moment of synchronicity. Foster Gamble is the force behind Thrive, the movie. It has gone viral and it has caused a sensation, encouraging us to look at ourselves and our world and our universe in new ways.
So Thrive has really reached so many people. I mean, it really has had a huge impact. What was your intention with it before you even began? Was there an intention, a conscious intention?
Well, Kimberly and I had a shared intention to use the media optimally to beneficially alter the global conversation. And we specifically have been researching for decades what is in the way of human beings thriving on a healthy planet and what can we do about it. And that's really what Thrive is about. It's a feature-length documentary that it goes behind the scenes, follows the money, explores who's in charge, what their agenda is, that is leading us, has led us to the brink of global disaster and a global police state, and what can we do about it to actually turn it around so everybody has the opportunity to thrive.
So we are here on the 21st of December 2012, right? Infamous day that humanity has been building towards for really millennia, building towards this moment. What changes do you think that we will expect to see among humanity, among ourselves, among our DNA?
Well, Kimberly and I received a wonderful invitation to be here at Chichen Itza for the end of this particular Mayan calendar and for this great turning. And we couldn't think of a place that we would rather be to come to celebrate. We're not experts in astrology. We know that there is an alignment that has not happened in recorded human history, with the Earth lining up with the Sun, lining up with Alcyon, the sun that our solar system goes around, lining up with Sirius, that system goes around, and all lining up with the center of the galaxy. So it's an incredible moment that already happened actually earlier this morning. And as expected, things look pretty much the same that they did, on a moment-to-moment, person-by-person basis. But on the other hand, I think that most people who are awake at all know that we have been in a period of tremendous contraction worldwide, where the forces that are trying to suppress people's love and creativity and prosperity and so forth have taken over a tremendous amount of the power in the world. And at the same time, there's this tremendous, the greatest spiritual emergence in human history, as people are waking up through the internet to what's really going on and, coming into a new paradigm of realizing that we're all connected, that we're actually all one. And so as I've looked at the Mayan legends and the Hopi legends and so forth, what they predict with this turning, really the end of not only a 5,200 year stage, but a 26,000 year stage, we're going into a new era where I believe, as they predicted, that we're going from more density, more contraction, into more expansion, into more of allowing of the feminine energy to be empowered, as people are waking up and realizing our connection. And those of your viewers who've seen Thrive know that I've been into cosmic geometry for a long time. So I brought a model to Chichen Itza because this is the vector equilibrium. This is a model of the geometry of space-time itself. This is the mother of all geometries. You never see this in nature because it's in complete equilibrium. This is the geometry of the plenum. When there's a contraction, then you start seeing the crystal shapes and the symmetries of plants and so forth. You start seeing them appear, and there's this pulsing, there's this breathing that goes on in every little point in the universe. And as it contracts down, this is what we've been doing in this large phase. We've been contracting down and kind of locking in. And I think this is the turn that literally is happening today in the cosmos, is we're starting to experience the beginning of this next expansion. And that's what's happening on a small scale, large scale throughout the universe. So it's actually pulsing like this. And this is the toroidal energy field that is always breathing, just like every organism in the universe. So that's the long answer of why we wanted to be here, to be a part of celebrating this great turning.
I love going back to the beginning. I'm a big fan of looking at those seed moments in life. And so as I hear you speak, I think about the level of consciousness that you're bringing, not only to this moment, but also to your interests. You have to have a certain amount of consciousness to even want to explore these matters. So I wonder, can you remember like your earliest experiences of understanding energy, if you will, of looking beyond the material? Was there someone in your life who influenced you?
Well, there were several key turning points for me. I think as the farthest back I can remember is that even though I was a little kid, I was feisty and I had a strong sense of justice. So I was always like peacemaking in my elementary school class. I was breaking up fights and that kind of thing. And I really think that I came here this lifetime to help expose the fundamental lie or lies on the planet that can free us up to thrive. And I'll say more about that in a moment. But the next moment for me was when, as a sixth grader, I was taught when the siren goes off, duck under your desk and cover your head, because that's how we prepare for a nuclear explosion. And as I'm under my desk like this, I'm thinking, I don't think this is going to protect me at all from a nuclear explosion. And that was the moment when I stopped thinking that adults had this whole thing handled. And that was an important wake-up call for me. And it really made me begin to look into energy. How are we accessing energy? And how can we access it in a harmonious way rather than with such incredible violence? So when I was 14 then, a few years later, riding on a school bus, I was looking out the window and I was seeing the light blinking through the trees and so forth, and all of a sudden I had this full-blown vision of an atom, this large vortex with the nucleus at the center and the electrons going around the outside. And then that transformed into a solar system with the sun at the center and the planets going around the outside. And I thought, whoa, there's some kind of similarity in that pattern. And then all of a sudden I felt like I am that pattern also, somehow, halfway in between, in scale, between these tiny little atoms and this vast solar system. And I became compelled from that day to find out, is there a fundamental energy pattern in the universe? And if so, what is it? Then when I graduated from college, I had been introduced by a friend to Zen meditation. And so I began meditating every day. And as I got deeper, I began to hear this distant rumbling. And I thought, oh, this is the kundalini, coiled at the base of my spine, ready to rise up through my chakras and enlighten me. Well, no such luck. It turned out that it was actually the wailing of the crying and the suffering of humanity that I was hearing louder and louder inside myself. So I was tempted finally to stop meditation, but what I decided to do instead was actually commit my life to relieving that suffering to whatever degree that I could. And that was the moment when that sound stopped. And then I've kept my promise the rest of my life to do everything I can to alleviate suffering. So when I left college, I found out that I was going to inherit some money from my grandparents that would allow me to make some free choices in my life. So rather than go to Hollywood and make feature films, which is what I was being trained for, I decided to commit my life to figuring out what's in the way of our thriving and what can we do about it. And I told my friends, if I find a meaningful answer to that, then I'll make a feature film. And I thought it would take 5 or 10 years. Here we are over 40 years later, but the film Thrive is really the result of that.
And Thrive has gone viral. It has gone viral. It's made such an impact. I wonder, what are you most proud of where it comes to this film?
Well, Kimberly and I are both really proud that we didn't hold back. A lot of people told us, oh, well, don't mention free energy, or don't mention extraterrestrials, or don't mention the conspiracy. Oh, don't go into banking, that'll be dangerous, and so forth. And we realized this was probably our one shot at a full-on communication to humanity. If people weren't ready for it yet, we were creating a time capsule. Maybe for this planet, maybe for a future planet, but something to help people be informed enough to avert self-destruction and actually move on to thriving. So we're really proud that we created, especially through Kimberly's help, because she was the producer and director, and she really helped create a tone in our movie that is inviting women into the conversation, even about conspiracy and depopulation and so forth, and inviting young people in a way that they not only trust the tone of what they're hearing, but they want to pass it on to their friends and their family and their spouses and their people at work and so forth. So with really essentially no marketing budget, in the first year, which just turned a couple of weeks ago, the film has been seen by close to 11 million people that we know about, and it's being seen by over 1 million a month, and that's growing. So clearly people were hungry for this information, to figure out what is really going on and then what are the solutions that aren't based on some old political polarity that clearly isn't working, or based on who's going to have the authority to tell everybody what to do, but instead based on the principles of integrity and freedom. So fortunately, people seem to be getting that message and getting active all over the world.
So you've touched on it just now a little bit, but I wonder if you could explore a little bit about why has it really touched a nerve? Why do so many people resonate with this film?
Well, it's a wonderful question. We're still in the process of asking. But I think fundamentally we start off with this fundamental pattern, this torus, this whirlpool vortex that we are completely made of and embedded in. Every atom, every cell, every the field around a human body, around a live seed, around the sun, around the planet, around the solar system itself, the galaxy. We're all embedded in this pattern, this torus pattern, because it's the only pattern that sustains itself in a healthy way throughout the cosmos, as far as we can tell so far. So we all, I think, resonate with that because it's who we are at every level. Secondly, as I mentioned, we didn't hold back on the truth. And so people are responding to the fact that they're getting real information, which has been independently fact-checked, and which they can follow up on themselves, that gives them a foundation for creating effective solutions. So we've visited over 30 cities around the world already with the film, and what's happening is people are turning out, packing auditoriums and coming out. Most of them have seen the film already. They want to spend a full day just talking about solutions. So we created this solutions hub on our website a few months ago, where groups that are forming or already are formed can connect as a network of networks and then share best practices, share lawsuits, class action petitions, artwork, flyers, and so forth, resources, so everybody doesn't have to be recreating the wheel. So networks can begin teaching and empowering each other, because that's what we set out to do, was to empower self-creating networks, not to create some vast centralized organization or something like that. And that seems to be working, because just in the last few months there are over 500 of those groups from over 70 countries have already signed up and are communicating with one another. So this has only confirmed for us just how brilliant and creative and committed human beings are when they have the appropriate information. And we're empowering them with everything we know to do to help each other to solve these problems.
To empower self-creating networks.
Yes.
That is very powerful. It's almost as if it sounds like community.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's voluntary, self-generating community. It's not somebody coming in and saying, okay, we're going to be a commune, we're going to be a communist country or something like that, but it's simply giving people the power and honoring sovereign beings. And when people have the appropriate information and when they have enough, and we're examples of that, you naturally turn to take care of your brothers and sisters. And that's what's happening all over the planet. We outnumber the perpetrators of what we call the global domination agenda by at least 1,000,000 to 1. And now people are waking up. So there's a lot of good news, a lot of things which are giving us hope.
And so coming from your background of privilege,
Yeah.
really, it's interesting that you are, I think that's part of what has gotten attention. Perhaps that was part of why you decided to be the face in front of this movie, because you understood that people would pay more attention. And so I find it so beautiful that you understand something about our commonality, something that makes all of us thrive. Can you share a little bit more about that, about where that comes from, about your commitment to that, that understanding of our unity?
Well, I know that I was blessed to have a mother who was the most unconditionally loving person that I ever met until I met my wife, Kimberly. So I was very fortunate growing up, and she was really a model of compassion. I also played sports all through my life, and when I was a kid, a lot of my best friends were on my Little League team or something like that, and I would go over to their house, and some of these people were really poor, in houses the size of our garage, and but I absolutely loved these people, and they loved me, and I began getting a glimpse of, hey, everybody doesn't live in this kind of privilege. I have truly been given a gift of time and of resources that now I can use for the benefit of humanity, not just for myself and my family. And I immediately realized that's what feels good. when I'm fulfilling my purpose, then I feel alive. And as I mentioned, I have the sense that I'm here to expose what lie is crippling or threatening this entire planet. And basically, what we've found is it's the lie that human beings are incompetent and that they need to be ruled by some privileged elite. Because what we've discovered is that every being has its own creativity and resourceful power if it's freed up to do its thing. And the whole notion that anyone should have power over anyone else is not only a fiction, but it's a dangerous, dangerous superstition. So we're exposing that because we've come a long way, from the pharaohs to the Roman Catholic Church to royalty and then communism, socialism, fascism, and so forth, down to democracy. And we've come a long way toward liberty and justice for all, but we're not there. If democracy means rule by the majority, then, look what happened to women, look what happened to blacks, look what happened to poor people and so forth in a so-called, constitutional democracy. So we actually, I'm convinced, need to go all the way to where we have rules, to protect individual rights and the commons that we need to share, but no rulers where anyone has rights of authority over anyone else that nobody else has.
Finally, what message would you hope that people associate with your name for a very long time to come, that they associate with your name now and well into the future?
Well, I'm proud that Kimberly and I have spent our lifetimes looking into the problems enough to see what's really going on and to see what would work. And so when we made the film, we had to sit down and think, okay, if we needed to come up with one word that would represent the thrust of our mission here, what would that be? And I was trained early on as a high-speed automobile driver, and I was taught that the deeper you look into the curve, the better coordinated you'll be in making that curve. So as deep as we could look into the curve, the one word that came to mind to represent what we're about is thrive. That's why we called the movie that way. So I would hope that we would be remembered, by our great-grandchildren and many others to come as just simple human beings who took a stand for the integrity and security of every single being on the planet, and did what we could to assure that everyone would have the opportunity to thrive.
Thank you so much for being here to celebrate, foster, gamble, and thrive with me. Until we connect again, take care. Watch Synchronicity, WebTV, celebrating astrology and the New Age, now in its 3rd season. New episodes every Thursday.